Happy David Lynch July, everybody. Well, here I am in an abandoned shack in the middle of the woods to talk to you all about a feature film from one of my favorite directors of all time, Mr. David Lynch.
Swirl the numbers. Pick a number.
His films have always been very divisive. What are they? Is it art house nonsense for weirdos with no legitimate narrative? Or are they a window to the soul? True transcendental expression with no need for a traditional story? Well, the answer is yes. But today I'm going to talk about one of his movies that pushes his experimental filmmaking style to the nth degree, and that is his 2006 movie, Inland Empire. The tagline for this movie is simply, "A woman in trouble," and that's one way to put it. And of course that tagline was the decision of a marketing executive, trying to make some sort of shorthand sense of this 3-hour-long experimental movie. But of course that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen with our pal David Lynch. Homer Simpson probably said it best.
This is the street.
Brilliant! I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
See, I'm not 100% sure how to talk about this movie, and that's exactly why I wanted to talk about it. You see, David Lynch is one of those directors that uses film as a form of pure, unrestrained expression.
And this thing is laughing at you, screaming. You look around, start the panic.
The shot composition is always masterful, the lighting is eerie and ethereal, the color stands and pops out, and the true intent of going in and making a movie means that when it comes to the storytelling, he can just go banana sandwich. He can do whatever he wants because he's that good at it. And Inland Empire is the epitome of everything I just said. It's a Jackson Pollock painting. It's David Lynch saying, "I'm sick of making shit like Dune, so I'm just gonna throw paint at the walls for 3 hours and see what happens." And as somebody who tries to make films, I really respect his confidence.
And it's just dark as hell and scary. You see inside, but these windows are dim. Everything was dim.
All right, I'm done gushing about David Lynch. Let's talk about Inland Empire. Also, spoiler alert. It's not really that kind of movie, but there you go. Spoiler alert. Inland Empire stars Laura Dern, Jeremy Irons, Justin Theroux, Harry Dean Stanton, and Terry Crews. Yes, okay. Terry Crews is in this. I wanted to just go ahead and get that out of the way from the get-go. Terry Crews shows up in this movie towards the end. It's kind of like when Billy Ray Cyrus turns up in Mulholland Drive. It's just bewildering. There are dozens of ways that you can describe the plot of this film. When I first watched it, I saw it as Laura Dern is an actress who has an affair with her co-star, falls in love, and then gets her heart broken and deals with feelings of betrayal and realizes that she's just another Hollywood hoe. But I liked my second viewing better. I just kind of stared at the screen with my headphones on, all the lights turned off, and just sort of let the movie happen in front of me. And now I realize, obviously, that it's about a movie star getting trapped in the remake of a film that's been cursed by a Polish gypsy. It's obvious.
Brutal fucking murder.
No, there is no obviously here. As I said before, making sense of this movie isn't really something that you can do unless it just makes sense to you. Now, backstory on this film, David Lynch went in without a script. According to IMDb.com, he pretty much just called Laura Dern up and said,
"Do you want to make a movie? A crazy, weird movie. I don't have a script. Let's just do some crazy shit."
Something to that effect. Either way, this movie was never meant to be a normal movie, even from pre-production. Okay, so if it isn't obvious yet, I really enjoyed this movie. I really, really like David Lynch as a filmmaker, and I think his creative intuition is extremely strong. In fact, it kind of astounds me that there was never a script for this. Because for a movie that's supposed to make absolutely zero sense, it does have a lot of overarching themes and characters and moments that tie together somehow, and it just kind of is left up to you to figure out what the somehow is. Now I want to talk about the cast. Are we done with the plot? I have absolutely no idea. So, yeah, that actually sounds about right. One of the things that I think makes David Lynch's films work so well is that he surrounds himself with fucking phenomenal actors. Laura Dern in this movie is wonderful. She has monologues sprinkled throughout the movie, a lot of emoting, just facial emoting, and let me tell you something. Nobody, and I mean nobody, except maybe Sheryl Lee, but nobody else conveys sheer terror with their face more than Laura Dern. When she looks horrified, I'm fucking horrified. But yeah, in a lot of ways, movies are just conduits for great acting performances. And in my opinion, that's David Lynch's strongest skill, is casting the perfect people to play the roles in his movies. Jeremy Irons plays the director in this movie, and he's brilliant. Harry Dean Stanton, I fucking love Harry Dean Stanton. He has a bit in this movie where he's talking to Justin Theroux and Laura Dern. They're sitting in director's chairs, and he goes on a tangent about how he used to raise rabbits that just leads to him asking them for money.
I have seen dogs reason their way out of problems. Watch them think through the trickiest situations. Do you have a couple of bucks I could borrow? I've got this damn landlord.
That's another thing. This movie has some moments that make me genuinely laugh, too. So another little addition to the plot of this movie, there is a movie being filmed during the entire movie of Inland Empire. And the reality of that movie starts to sort of merge and blend with the actual movie, and you never really know what's the movie that's being filmed or what's the normal narrative going on that's not being filmed. It all just kind of muddles together and makes you incredibly confused. Anyway, that all leads to, there's another scene in the movie where Jeremy Irons is yelling at a gaffer who is very clearly David Lynch, and he's just screaming off in the distance.
I think I'd say up 2 feet. You'd know better than me. But it's still...
Boss, you want the 2K down? You want it down?
Yeah, I'd say about 2 foot down, Bucky.
How far do you want it to go down?
Yeah, a bit more. Keep...
No, how far?
Then we have the music. If there is anything that makes it an instant dead giveaway that it's a David Lynch movie, it's probably the music. Ambient, droning, eerie noise, or alternatively, smoky jazz guitar with beats on a snare drum. I mean, it's just such a dead giveaway. This movie particularly has a lot of droning ambient noise, which is why I kind of recommend you watch it with headphones, just because there's a lot of low frequency humming and droning that really adds to the feeling of the movie. A lot of that, of course, is thanks to Angelo Badalamenti, Lynch's longtime musical collaborator. Thank you, Angelo Badalamenti, for making me scared. And also slightly comforted. It's like comfortable terror. I don't want to bring up Silent Hill, but I'm going to. In the Silent Hill games, there is that same kind of ambiance. It's like the music makes you feel kind of relaxed and comfortable and at peace, but then there's just so much horrific shit happening that you don't know what to feel. And it's fantastic. This film was mostly shot handheld on a digital camera. You'll notice it pretty immediately. It makes the whole thing look a lot more like some sort of deranged snuff film. Parts of it being shot digitally do sort of bother me a little bit. There's one scene in particular, I don't know why this scene stands out to me so much, but there's a scene where the husband in the movie, Pietrek, has ketchup smeared all over him.
Where's the paper towels?
And the camera pushes in to the ketchup, and you can just really feel in that moment that there's somebody behind the camera. It's like when your dad is shooting a home video and he's just moving in and out of everything, and it just feels really, really like that. Props to David Lynch, though. He shot the whole thing on a shitty digital camera and then ran home to edit it on Final Cut Pro for 6 months. I relate to that on a visceral level. Now back to the plot real quick. I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but I feel like that's fitting. I know I mentioned Mulholland Drive earlier, and this movie actually reminds me a lot of Mulholland Drive, which is Lynch's previous feature shot in 2001. You have a slightly off-kilter story that just starts to absolutely devolve into a dreamlike state of terror. In fact, being in a dream is probably the best way to describe Inland Empire if you had to, because it feels a lot like being in a dream. Plot lines get jumbled and thrown around with other ones, long moments of silent searching and reacting. It all just feels so non-real. And why not? I mean, you're making a movie. It doesn't have to adhere to normality. It doesn't have to adhere to normal everyday life. But people don't like that shit. People want meaning. In fact, they'll downright kill for it. Or even worse, they'll post a 2-hour-long video titled "The True Meaning of Inland Empire Explained." There is no true meaning of Inland Empire. There is not a true meaning. Actually, here's a quote from Mr. David Lynch himself proving it. "I've said many, many, many unkind things about Philadelphia, and I meant every one." Oh fuck, that was the wrong one. It makes me uncomfortable to talk about meanings and things. It's better not to know so much about what things mean, because the meaning, it's a very personal thing. And the meaning for me is different than the meaning for somebody else. So if you ever have a loved one, perhaps an elderly grandmother, tell you that they know definitively what Inland Empire or any other David Lynch movie is about, I want you to very kindly, very sweetly, punch them in the mouth. And then go watch Inland Empire. Put some headphones on, don't watch it on your fucking telephone.
It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone.
And sit down for 3 hours of pure Lynchian ambiance. All right, one final thing. Last summer I did a review of David Lynch's short film horror sitcom Rabbits. And if you watched Rabbits and were confused as to what the hell's going on, watch Inland Empire, because it all ties perfectly together in a neat little bow that will leave you even more confused. Have a good night, everybody.
Cut it. And print it.